Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Vidyadhar, for joining my personal branding series that I run on my blog. This is a series I reach out to thought leaders from various walks of life, and I noticed that you have done an incredible amount of work in such a short, span of time. You've been associated with various global organizations. You've been the India Europe 40 under 40. You've been part of Ford, UN, World Bank. So I think there's a whole lot of stuff which you have done. So I'm very, very delighted to have you on board this series. So before we get started, it'll be great if you could quickly introduce yourself for our audience, and then we'll dive into the questions.
Hey, thank you for inviting me for your personal branding series. It's an interesting thing that you started. And to give a background about myself, I co-founded an organization called Lead Cap Ventures. Currently, we work in three areas. First, we partner with most of the international institutions such as the UN, World Bank, or the World Economic Forum,
Right.
and we are their regional partners where we execute most of their engagements and researches and policy-driven work in India and across South Asian region as such. So we represent them in the region and engage with them.
Okay.
Secondly, we work with international brands. We work with multinational organizations where we help them improve their specific marketing, sales, and strategy-related work and products, branding, all those things as such. And
Okay.
thirdly, we engage with small and medium enterprises and even startups and help them look at scaling their brand, scaling their operations, scaling their businesses,
Mm.
be it entry into multivarious market, be it a diversification into product lines or launching new brands or ideating concept or evaluating concept or doing a feasibility study. So that's
Okay.
thing that we do. We've scaled up and helped us scale up a lot of startups, including Swiggy or Atanzo, or currently we work with Cred recently. So on and so forth.
Great. Great. Fantastic. So let me ask you the first question as to what is your definition of personal branding? What do you understand by it?
Okay, so there are two things that involved over here. There's a person and there is a brand. So
Mm-hmm.
when I say branding, the brand typically terminology says that it is a nomenclature or a word or an acronym or a synonym, whatever you call it, which defines a product. That's Philip Kotler definition of a brand. So
Right.
when you say a brand. And to give a very common example, a photocopier or a photocopy is a product as such. But if you people call it Xerox, so
Mm-hmm.
that is the power of branding. And when it relates to it actually develops something called as a personal brand. So when I say a personal brand, it typically depicts a person who you are, and that evaluates from person as a person from what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say a brand, and the second, the most attribute to a brand is a recall value. Okay, so when you say a recall value and, to a brand, it has its own recall value, and when you attach it to a personal, so if a personal is getting remembered for something and getting recalled for something, it becomes a personally branding as such. So there are several people out there who are called by name. So it could be somebody like a Virat Kohli or a MS Dhoni from cricket, or there could be Amitabh Bachchan from Bollywood, so on and so forth. So they have a brand. These people are all on top of minds. That's
Mm-hmm.
when you create your own brand, and primarily that happens through your work.
Mm-hmm.
However, there is another angle to it. So you do a work, and that's what you remember for. But it's not necessary that people will recall you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Recent example being somebody, I'm not sure whether you know him, this person Sonu Sood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's a Bollywood actor by profession, but people are remembering for his work which is done in. So that is again an analogy or something a different way of looking at what personal brand. So one is the work what you do, and second, people will remember for you for what. So these are two different variations of personal branding.
Fantastic. And if I were to ask you, I know you are very humble. You'll not admit that you are a personal brand already. But what are how do you know what are some of the signs which tell you that you're a personal brand?
Thank you for recognizing me as a personal brand, but I don't think so. I've reached that level that I have a recall value and people are remembering me. So, but one of the things that I have realized in my life is that when you do your work, people will recognize you for what you do, and that is the most single most thing that also get associated with the brand. So when your work grows bigger, you as a person grow bigger. It's not always reverse way. It's not that people take the work ahead. It's the work takes the people ahead. Hello.
Yeah, no problem. I think, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's the definition of personal branding as such. And I feel that I have to do a long way to reach to a level where it is a personal brand. As of now, my energies are focused as far as my organization is concerned. So as lead cap grows bigger, eventually, I would go bigger.
Okay. Got it. So if I were to ask you, what does one do to go about building a personal brand? What are some of the steps they should take?
Steps to be taken to build a personal brand. I believe first is definitely your work. Your work will eventually carry you to in making you as a personal brand. But eventually, if you need to make a create your own way out of the way, then I think you should do something out of the way of your work. So this is something which I've learned from my mother.
Mm-hmm.
She used to work in a bank and she used to go out of her way to help others. This
Mm-hmm.
quality which I personally feel that would help you create a brand. So I've been helping people in many other areas, whether it is creating a resume or helping them promote their organizations or
Mm-hmm.
helping them with some connections or networking through my own networks as such. A small help takes you a long way. That's the way I would put it. So if you need to do or build your own personal brand, you should start looking at helping out people, going beyond your normal way of working.
Got it. So, you mentioned MS Dhoni, you mentioned Sonu Sood, you mentioned some of them. So, what are some of those attributes that you see in personal brands and some of those key people whom you have, who you see as personal brands? What is it that you admire about them?
Okay, so if I have to associate key attributes or if I have to associate some words to these people, I would say only few things that are very stark or common in all of the personal brands across various sectors. First, they are humble, they
Mm-hmm.
are down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
Second, there needs to be trust building, so they need to be trusted. And third,
Mm-hmm.
they should be relative enough. People should be able to relate to them and their stories and their struggles. If these three things are falling in line, probably you would be able to create your own brand as such. See, there are examples which are kind of a one in a million. For example, Sachin Tendulkar is a big brand, and the person is a one in a million. There may not be a second Sachin Tendulkar or people. If even if I aspire to be like him, I cannot be like him. That's a
Mm-hmm.
reality fact. So who I would look at, being look at a person to seek inspiration from. So I would be somebody who's just coming from nearby place, my town, and has grown big up. So my ideology is that if that person has become can create a difference to the world, why can't I? The relationship or my association with anybody has to have one to one parallel kind of thing.
Got it. Got it. And while you went about your journey, what are some of the challenges that you faced and what did you go about? How do you go about overcoming them in terms of building your personal brand?
Oh, challenges. So challenges happen every day. It's still I've been working independently for the last 13 years. I have had almost three failed ventures, and probably a little success being tested as far as one venture is concerned.
Hmm.
Challenges are several in terms of when you look at promoting yourself. The next question is asked upon is in terms of who you are. Okay, so that itself raises the question of the credibility. So you need to tell yourself or convince yourself from your stories to people, saying that this is something which I've been doing, and can you look at that, and then we can take it forward. So one of the things is that people don't really trust you when you say that you are doing this. So probably
Hmm.
that is one of the challenge, that people don't really trust you initially. It takes a lot of time to establish that, and a lot of hard work goes inside, to building that trust itself.
Got it. And so along your journey, there are some points where you gain something. So you gain fame, you gain recognition, you gain a lot of value, and there are things which you lose, like you may lose friendship or family time or all that. So what are some of the things that you gained, some of the things that you lost?
Uh, my biggest loss now is my mother. I lost to COVID a month back itself.
Okay.
So that's the biggest loss that I that I have. And in fact, probably I in my early start of my career, in terms of when I was starting up and I quit job and I started up my enterprises. I lost my
Hmm.
grandfather also. So these are my biggest losses that I had to do. Other personal sacrifices are there in terms of not living a normal life, not having spending time with family as such. So those are there. Yeah, but those are personal sacrifices that anybody would end up making. So, if you are here for a bigger cause, and if you are here for making a bigger difference to the society, these
Hmm.
personal sacrifices, everybody does it, and I'm not different from anybody else.
Hmm. Got it. Okay. And if I were to ask you, what advice do you have for people who want to build their personal brand from scratch? Like there are a lot of students out there who are young and they want to start, creating a personal brand for themselves. So what's your advice for them?
Creating a personal brand, okay, it is actually a work of patience.
Hmm.
So it doesn't happen. So brands are not created overnight. For
Hmm.
example, Xerox took so many years to become Xerox what it is.
Hmm.
uh, Probably the easiest bigger brand is for deodorant is probably Fog, which has probably
Hmm.
had the shortest time for gaining a recall value and market. So
Hmm.
brands are not created overnight, and personal brands, it take I don't know, it takes generations to become, or to recognize as such.
Hmm.
One of the advice which I will tell people is that if they are the race of be creating their own personal brand,
Hmm.
they should be patient enough and work and focus on their work. So
Hmm.
it is people easily get diluted with a small time recognition. So be it featuring in media, or getting some awards over there. That is kind of a darker side also to it. So you tend to deviate from your original work based on the glory that you see from the media. So
Hmm.
one thing what I would also say is that they should focus on what they are doing currently and continue doing the impact. It is the work that they carry, and they carry will make them a personal brand, and not the otherwise round.
Got it. Got it. And if you had the opportunity to look back on your career and change something in the way you would have gone about building your personal brand, what would that be?
To change something about what I've done, I honestly don't think so. I've been here. For example, if I have to give a stark recognitions of mine, it has come from a different thing altogether. I've been into research, analytics, consulting,
Hmm.
these areas, but my initial recognition that I came from the World Economic Forum is something that a work I did in Kerala. So, which is we start work with an organization in Kerala to establish for world's first leadership village. That got bigger, and that helped me to get my first recognition as a nomination as a global shaper. So
Mm.
what I have been started doing and how what I got recognized for, these are completely different scenario now. So
Okay.
it happens as though these works are related to my organization, but yes, my prime organization, which helps me win my bread and butter for life, is completely different. What recognitions or what personal brand have become is from
Mm.
completely a different work. So this is also a scenario that could happen.
Got it. Got it. And now, we are going through this pandemic and there's so many, crises around the world. So what is your advice for personal brands on how they should conduct themselves during this time and after COVID also?
Okay. So I think the pandemic is the biggest disruptor. I think the COVID is the biggest disruptor, and disruption is actually a good sign to create personal brand. So
Mm.
there are people who have lost jobs, who have changed jobs, who have changed their way of working,
Mm.
and have done fantastic magic. So there have been drivers who have actually become excellent. So there have been people who are daily laborers, have created innovations, have created products which are actually people or companies are interested in buying those products and owning them. So
Mm.
opportunity to create a personal brand, this is the best opportunity that you could get, because everything is disrupted. Everything
Mm.
is ground zero right now, and post ground zero, everybody will be, whether it's rich, whether it's a poor, whether he's working in multinational, or whether he's a migrant labor, whoever it is. COVID has brought everyone down to what to say, a bottom flat.
Mm.
And I think this is the biggest opportunity that anyone shouldn't miss out on. And I think I've tried to create, learn something, do something differently in this COVID time as well.
Interesting. So, Vidyadhar, I mean, as we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, what is your recipe for personal branding success? So, if there's a one mantra or one line which comes to your mind, what would that be?
One line or a mantra I would say it is be yourself, be humble, and stay on ground.
Okay, okay. This is great. Thank you so much for taking the time. I think these have been brilliant answers, and I'm sure our viewers will really love and appreciate what you have said. So, thank you again for taking the time to do this.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.